This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 93, +1 Wedding Roundup. Welcome to the Zettelcast, episode number 93. And we are missing our host today, who has personal stuff that she's taking care of, but she did set us up for how we're going to structure today's episode. And the title of it is a +1 Wedding Roundup. We're just coming at the end of the month of June. It's kind of nice thinking of weddings. And so it's inspired by something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. And so I'll just read out what she asked us to do. We're going to take this in 2 rounds. So each of us is going to share our old, new, borrowed, blue thingies. And then we'll have a second round of discussing what we learned. So, something old, a long lost note card or Zettelkasten artifact. Something new, a new card or discovery from the month of June. Something borrowed, a tip, trick, workflow, or something you borrowed from a fellow Zettelcaster. I already went rogue on that, and I hope I'm not the only one. If I am, it's fine. And something blue, what bums you out about your Zettelkasten, or share something you really wish you'd learned or discovered sooner about your Zettelkasten or note boxes in general. So, who would like to provide their first +1 wedding roundup?
No, well, if no one else. If you want to, Deb.
Okay, well, the something old was an old piece that I wrote called Writerly Love Notes. But I don't need to go, well, I mean, it was just a little ditty. And then the something new was, Mel, I keep coming back to you, but it is what it is. And so it's your newsletter 19 and 20, or 18, 19, and 20, I guess, you know. And then the borrowed is actually, Julianne, you wrote a story about the Lucasa and the people being around and getting a little piece of paper from Christopher Alexander's book, and the whole house raising thing, and the idea of making a room even before there was something physical, because and the room or the place was the memory of it, you know. So the witnessing, and the something blue, the thing that I wish that I had beforehand, is back to Mel again, and the summarization. Okay, I mean, all of these things should be no surprise to any of you guys about what's going on in my head. So there's this thing somewhere. Oh, yeah, okay. And it's Lord, I just had it. Is it possible to be drowning in paper? Okay, so it's an ode And it goes, oh, small, bright burden of the mind, not heavy as a bookcase, not loud as a lecture hall, not nailed to any wall, but carried. A bead beneath the thumb, a phrase inside the breath, a seed of meaning wrapped in image, a ladder folded into the palm. You are the old road made pocket size, the grandmother's counsel tied in a knot, a hand closing yours before you speak, her answer already waiting in the string. The monk's whole mountain hidden inside one polished stone. You do not hoard the facts. You press them. You boil them down until only what lives can live without the leaves. Then you dress that root in a symbol. A blue shell for grief survived. A red bead for danger remembered. A spiral for return. A tiny door for the thought that would not open until touched. Portable wisdom. You travel faster than explanation. You cross the river before the sentence has finished building its bridge. You are the meaning in shorthand, memory with handles, understanding made touchable, the thought that would not stay, now learning to rest in form. What's going on with my thing here? Okay. You lift fact until it breathes as meaning. You press meaning until it takes a shape. You send it back into the world wearing form. So the mind is not a warehouse. It is a fire carrier. It is a hand pressing warmth from elder to child, from wound to story, from story to pattern, from pattern to song. Bless the portable, bless the bead, the card, the phrase, the scar that became a map, the map that became a practice, the practice that became a life. Bless the wisdom that does not sit enthroned, but walks with us, waits in the pocket, rests on the tongue, answers when touched, and says, take me with you. I am small enough to carry. I am large enough to bring you home. So that's
Nice.
That is very nice.
Very good. Yep.
Very nice. Mm-hmm.
so that's all of my something borrowed, something blue, all of it
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
together. So
Super. Who would like to go next? Kathleen, you had already spoken up. Maybe you just go.
I'll go next. Okay. So my old thing is an artifact. It is a key. This particular key came with my Zettelkasten boxes. They're all keyed alike, as would happen to be. And I never ever locked them because why? I open the doors all the time. Well, now my Zettelkasten is on a moving van traveling across the country. It's actually not traveling at this moment. The truck is broken down part way, waiting for a part. So, but theoretically it's traveling. And my Zettelkasten is inside. I couldn't bear the thought of the drawers coming open somehow, even though they're packed securely with wrapping paper all around them. So I locked them. And this key is all I have of my Zettelkasten right now.
Wow.
An old key never before used, but I am sure hoping that I will be able to use it sometime quite soon.
yes, ma'am.
Whoa.
My something new is a card that I made, but I can't file because I don't have my Zettelkasten with me. But this is something that I've been working on for months and months right now. and it has to do with my newsletter, which is about the character traits. And I'm coming upon, I'm trying to explain how the next level of my character traits is going to work. There are 30 character lessons in the complete character trait, and I'm working on 27 right now. So I'm getting very close to the end of the whole first level where my subscribers, well, once they have 30 newsletters, they have the full set of character traits treated one at a time in isolation, how you can use it in writing, every which way you can use it in writing, inside and out, understanding it completely, what makes it different and distinct from every other character trait, and how it can be combined with other character traits. Well, level 2 takes a totally different approach. It takes a developmental approach. As much as level 1 said they're all independent, level 2 talks about their dependencies. How do they relate to one another? How do they grow out from one another? How do they differ from one another in function? And it's fairly complex to approach how to describe that. And this card reflects what I've kind of figured out as a way of stating it in a simple overview. So it's a very precious card to me. There's 3 parts to the whole discussion, and but I can't file it because I don't have my Zettelcast. Okay, my something borrowed is from Julianne Scherer. It's the Z-Log. I love it. I love being able to have a sheet of paper where I add a date and I create the card, and I can put the card down even if it doesn't have a number yet. And definitely once it has a number, I can delay indexing it for a time without losing it. And it also gives me something very valuable, which is when I'm thinking about what was that thought I had? It was about a week ago. It was a Wednesday. I know it was a Wednesday because it was right after, and you can go there and you can find it in a reasonable block of cards. It's a tremendous advantage. I've borrowed it and I will never let it go. And the something blue, something that I wish I had known earlier, was the concept of having an index in a notebook. The idea that you could have an 8.5 by 11 page instead of a single file card. My letter S very early on had to be broken down into multiple sections, and C, and then T, and P, and now many of my letters have had to be broken down into multiple sections because I end up with multiple file cards with that same letter. But if I had a full page, that would happen a lot less quickly, and then I could still keep my individual index by the individual word as separate pages or separate file cards attached via a disk. The disk binder is another key part of that. So that is something that now my index is an entire file drawer. There's no way that I would convert it, I think, at this point. But so that's my blue. Thank you.
Cool. Excellent, excellent. Victoria, you did us proud. Sorry you're not here. This is wonderful stuff. Mel, would you like to go?
Yep. So I'm going to take things a little bit out of order because it makes more sense that way, I think. So my borrowed thing is what we talked about last week, to some extent, the pile of index cards system, where I'm now numbering and filing cards by the date and time that they're created, which, it's a trade-off. It means that I have to go through and find the links myself after the fact. But the plus side is I no longer have a backlog. I have cards go into the Z-Log, which I also have borrowed, and then they're filed and they're available immediately or within a couple of days, because sometimes they do back up a little bit, but not like they did. But I do still have an old backlog from the old system, and that's where I dove into to find an old card. At some point, I'll put those. Oh no, I'm dropping them. At some point, I'll put those into the new system, probably. So I found a couple of old cards that are interesting. I'll go with the contract one. So when I was reading a contract last year, which is something I do for my job as a legal proofreader, there was a really unusual clause, a termination clause. And I'm just going to paraphrase it here rather than reading the legalese to you. Uh, Basically, it said that if there's any laws that say that all of the things in the contract cannot go on forever, if they have to have an end date, then they establish the end date. If none of the other ending clauses have happened, the end date is 21 years after the last remaining descendant of various presidents and they list them off, have died. Very convoluted. So, and it's all of the presidents back to the first Bush. All of their descendants that are now living, once the last one of those has died 21 years after that, if the contract has not already expired, it will expire. And I am not usually moved to copy down clauses that I see at work, but boy, I copied that one down because it was just so weird. And so I'm going to share some of the response card that I had. This is such a weirdly specific termination condition. I'm imagining being the guy tasked with keeping the list of all those presidential descendants and ticking them off as they die. What if the Secret Service got wind of that? Try explaining that one.
Also,
I'm
script.
Yes, I'm now tempted to create an equally convoluted and bizarre clause for a fictional contract, maybe for Roanoke, or a thriller. One party to the agreement is desperate to end it and turns to murder. But I suppose preventing that possibility is the purpose of the 21-year continuance after the last death. Yes, that gave me several. Actually, I dropped a card, but there was additional responses that I was just really amused by that. And now that I found that card again, I'm remembering, oh, perhaps that is something I could put into Roanoke somewhere, somehow. And for something that I created in the month of June, I pulled out an experience collection card that I made after walking on the bike trail, as I like to do very often. So this was somebody that I saw on the trail. Everything about him was larger than life. The broad shoulders, the bulging muscles, the tattoos down both arms, the beard flowing down his chest to the oversized cross on a chain. Everything, that is, except his bicycle. He perched atop it like a bullfrog on a slender reed, knees rising above the handlebars with every stroke.
Oh, man. Please let us see that guy in Roanoke.
I think you just described Fugly's bicycle. No.
Fugly's not huge though.
Oh.
Fugly's long and lanky.
Oh.
And graceful. It sort of could be what Chris's father Monty looks like on a bicycle. They call him Monty because he's like a mountain of a man.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
I don't think this guy was particularly tall. It's hard to tell on a bicycle, but within the height that he had, he was big.
Yeah.
And not fat, but just big.
It's just, boy, is it a striking image. Wow, what a great capture.
Yeah, I'm sure he was like, why is this guy staring at me as he went by? But I wanted to capture every bit of it because it was so.
Yep. It was so the funny. Knees over the handlebars. That was
yeah. Made it very visual.
Yes. Yes.
And the only thing that I'm feeling blue about right now is that I'm in a rather busy period and I don't have as much time to work with my cards and create and find the links as I would like. So hopefully that will change soon, but that's really the only thing. I'm pretty happy with the way it's humming along now.
So did that tick all of your boxes? Old, new,
That ticks
borrowed,
all
and
of them.
blue?
Yep, I did borrowed first and then I
Right.
did the other three.
Alrighty. Fantastic. All right. My old has an aspect of blue as well. So I went in search of a different card that I thought, yeah, that I'm going to use that one as my old. So there's a card that I hate on that I was going to get. Um, and the problem with that card is that it is massively over-indexed.
Mm.
It was it was like a journal entry on a card, and I was very new to the Zettelkasten, and every other word seemed important.
Mm.
And so every time I run into that card in my index, I discount it as crap. So that had exactly the opposite effect. But that was the card that I went looking for. But the card that I found on the way, it's a little blue as well. In that I don't have proper attribution for the source.
Mhm.
I think I know where to find it. Well, I think I know in what book to find it. What I don't know is where the book is. But anyway, the card, it's kind of interesting. It's a term called Zen stink.
Mm.
And it is a phenomenon that meditators are introduced to, especially if they call on the Zen tradition. Now, what I have here is uh, probably my paraphrase, but I don't have the source of what was I paraphrasing.
Mhm.
But Zen stink, that smell emanating from the rotting corpse of the projected self.
Mm.
Mm. Ooh.
And I'm really glad I ran into this because this card was not indexed.
Oh.
So when I first started, I was kind of creating clumps and just indexing the title of the clump. And fortunately, I didn't go very long before I encountered Ms. Kathleen Spracklin, who set me straight. So that's my old one. My new one, I might go long on this, but it's a new to me word. And the way I learned what I understand of it, is from a new to me ritual that I'll tell you about. So the word is a Greek word that does not have a good English translation. The the people that I heard talking about this, it's a Greek word that is a virtue,
Mm.
pronounce the word sophrosyne.
Mm.
Sophrosyne. Sophrosyne. The English dictionary pronounces it sophrosyne. Whichever. I'm probably going to say sophrosyne because all the people I hear talking about this word say it that way. Now, the definition that I have here came from the ritual that they did. The ritual they call dialectic into dialogos. And it comes from, you can look this up, a set of practices that fall under the umbrella awaken to meaning. And if you search for awaken to meaning, you'll find dialectic into dialogos as one of the practices And you can take, for not a lot of money, a course in doing it, and you get experience doing it. I have not done that. You can also get trained in how to train other people in this. And I haven't done that either. So take with a grain of salt what I'm going to say dialectic into dialogos is. It is a ritual practice for four minds to contemplate a virtue collaboratively in a way that can lead to the virtue itself making itself known. So it has a lot of connection with the individual practices of discursive meditation, but because it is collaborative and it takes four roles, each person has the chance to play each of the roles and they rotate. And so they build on each other's proposal for what, in this case, sophrosyn is. And other people have the responsibility to help tease out from the person making the proposal, to be the scribe, and to listen in a deeper level to the things that are unsaid, the body language, all of those things that went into that conversation between the person proposing and the listener. So it's very, and I watched this in a video. I can include the link. It's very good. I mean, you have to be patient because it's like to watch this, like, well, don't just tell me what it is. It goes deep. And it really respects, I think, a lot of what Deb, you were talking about in your ditty. So, sophrosyn, what they come up with in this four-parter, they start with the first proposal, which is sophrosyn being able to apply the right amount of attention to the right place that needs it. Mm-hmm. And it comes about when you have some sort of struggle faced with overwhelming choices, right? And so what happens when one tunes into this virtue of sophrosyn is that there is a collapse of the overwhelming options in favor of a very imminent right choice. And that was what came about through the first discussion. The second one added a balancing, releasing that burden, but it's a balancing of egotistical desires and more open-hearted spiritual desires and or inclinations. So that balance, going to the third one, the balance and collapse of the overwhelm is self-organizing with the world. And they finally say what I've got as my tagline, sophrosyn, the way the good embodies the world. So that's my new. My borrowed, I've already done my blue. My borrowed is from another YouTube channel on writing. It's called the Writing Woods. And it's hosted by an utterly, to me, charming East Tennessean writer who is a professional editor. And she gives all of her talks sitting out in the woods. And she presents a practice that she fully acknowledges this is not how she used to write. She's glad that she writes this way now. And it's called deep outlining. I will again link to this. She gives a four-part structure. It starts with high-level view of your major characters' arcs. You know, where they start out with their misbeliefs and challenges and that sort of thing, where they arrive. And then the meat of this deep outline is a, a minimum of one paragraph for every scene in which that whole arc, all those arcs take place. A minimum of one paragraph. She says, sometimes it's 2 or 3. And then she says, don't skip step 3. You're going to have this whole thing. And you are going to be so tempted to write the damn book because you know it now. But don't skip it. Do your developmental edit on that.
Oh.
And she, in a way that is not at all offensive to me, offers her services to edit that. You will save a ton of time and money editing that because it's so much easier to move those few paragraphs for every scene around rather than all that you fill it up with when you've got your whole book. And then the final one is write the book. Well, the way I am borrowing this for the Roanoke project, I'm practicing on all of the 100 pages or so that I've written in the first act by going back and creating a deep outline of all of the scenes in all of my chapters. And I think, my co-authors, you're going to have an easier time getting through it
Oh.
than reading all 100 pages, because we've already gotten to the point where things that I have written have been forgotten by my co-authors, and I don't blame you. There are things that I've written I had forgotten to. But I'm practicing on what I've written because it helps me summarize and get the hang of how much is enough and how much is too much and that sort of thing. But I'm wanting to get away from what I don't think is working in the Roanoke project particularly well, and that is me sharing the taglines of the huge numbers of cards that I have, most of which are sort of my own private language for stuff. It's not going to be resonant. Hasn't been resonant. And I haven't seen a lot of everybody else's cards, but I think it's probably that will be the same thing for everybody. You know, we all have different takes, which is why this project is so exciting to me. But trying to figure out a way that we can get some of the benefit of the Zettelkasten. I mean, I could see going back and creating individual cards for those scenes or whatever. And then that makes it easy to move around as well, where people are not necessarily having to use Scrivener or whatever as a digital tool to do that. So that's what I'm borrowing. And it's a work in progress, but I'm already very excited by it because I can see, although I haven't done it yet, that when I go to apply it to new scenes, it's better than what I've been doing, which is just a line from my cards and then deeply working out the interstitial content, which involves a lot of editing while writing. And to just go down a level rather than all the way down to the deep level of the deepest level of the narrative, right? So that's what I have.
And what a perfect transition to our discussion.
Yeah.
Because I love the idea that we're retrofitting this because you're starting with, we all have things we've written. And by starting with what we've already written, that step 4 that she said, don't do that yet, and going backwards, we can build for ourselves what the paragraphs or cards in our case would look like if we had done it the other way around.
Yeah.
And it gives us, as you said, something that's so much easier to share and so much easier to build a timeline from, because there's been a promise that each of us would make a timeline for all of the things that we have written. And we can share that timeline so much easier by putting a time index on it, which brings us right to Mel, because Mel is talking about using the pile of cards method, which is a a chronological timeline of real time. Well, we have a retrofitted chronological timeline of the story, and these cards can fit into that. And
Hmm.
we might even discover that at least one of the Zettelkastens in the found world is organized in that manner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You could imagine lots of different ways of doing. Well, we've experienced lots of different
Mhm.
ways of using a Zettelcast in the end. There isn't one true way.
Right, right. There's a Zettelkasten of facts and ideas, which I was very ready to reject until I got Victoria's book.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden, oh, there's information that you want to capture because you want to utilize it. And not everything is about reinventing the wheel or thinking your grand thought on the top of somebody else's. Sometimes you just want to try it out
Yeah,
and you want to know what it was. So she's giving me a whole new appreciation of a categorical system as a method of organizing and why you would actually want to seriously have a categorical, at least a categorical chunk in your Zettelkasten over and above the ideas, which I still favor for the development of thoughts. So now there's two, now we have three. Who knows? Teresita has the one of objects.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Other thoughts on whatever people have shared?
Um, so I already sort of do that paragraph per scene thing, um, not systematically the way that you described, but that is often how I begin before I write the scene. I just start writing out how I think it will go in a summary. I've just been calling that zero draft. That's like basically a high level summary of a scene is my zero draft, the way I think it consider it. So I've got a lot of cards like that, and I do think that that practice will help with the upcoming, as a reminder, assignment to make that timeline that we're talking about for each character that you have. And I was imagining it as a timeline of paragraphs for the summarizing the different scenes that that character has been involved in. We don't yet know necessarily exactly the timeline, but we can come up with relative ones.
Yeah,
I know this happened before that. I don't know how it fits into the bigger calendar, but this happens before that.
yeah,
And we can go from there. And as far as
Mhm.
connecting up our different thises and that's.
yeah. Because even if you know what happens chronologically, that is not necessarily how it's presented in the book. It could be presented as a flashback
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm.
or some other time altering
Mhm.
mechanic.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. And not even necessarily time altering because we've got many different characters who interact.
yeah.
So you might have a pair of characters that interact across a 3-day time span, whereas something in the middle, two other characters are interacting in an afternoon within that 3 days.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
And of course, we have that already with Sunny, who has experienced his Vaingram episode at the same time as the buildup,
yeah,
first buildup.
yeah.
Mm. Mm. I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about my characters and I don't know where they are in time. I don't know where they are in time. I know they exist in time somewhere, but where relative to X, Y, or Z thing, no clue. No
Yeah,
clue.
yeah. I think this exercise that Mel is proposing is going to allow, well, one, you'll at least have your ability to sequence for your characters. You'll know that in her own life, Sarah Chen, if you were writing her biography,
Mm.
this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened.
Oh, I know her sequential
Yeah,
life.
yeah, exactly. And that's all you're going to need to do. And then we're going to figure out, how does it, what are some ways that that could effectively slot in as a follow-up exercise? Probably many. That's kind of developmental edit. Is what that is, as far as I
Mm.
understand it.
Mm.
Yeah. So I would say it's healthy to have the question, I don't know when this happens in the book. I think it's very healthy to keep that question alive, um, and unburden yourself from feeling like you're supposed to know.
I only know that it happened, not the win of it. That's
Yeah. Yep.
that's
That's
it.
good. Yep.
That's it. Mm. Okay. So when do we do you said 60, 97? Which
It's gonna be 96 actually.
96?
Mhm.
Okay. Mhm.
So I'll send out the link to I think I have done a decent job of presenting this deep outlining
Mhm.
method, and it's quite intuitive, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's an interesting exercise to go back to your very free flowing, in some cases, I know in mine, a lot of things I discovered as I was writing
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
And then to go back and first of all, to decide if I were going to hand this to an editor,
Mhm.
what are the things that I would leave out? And
Oh.
what are the things that I would feel it's necessary for me to bring this up here? And I
Mhm.
might bring it up here and refer to the fact it also, the seeds were planted earlier, but you don't necessarily want to talk about every planted seed in that outline. So figuring out how to make it a continuous uh, narrative structure that, one, doesn't overwhelm the reader. And that's one of my main goals with all of you, for you to have an easier reference than to say, okay, read the 5 pages of the chapter called "Here We Go a Processing"
Yeah.
to remind yourself of a bunch of stuff that I have attempted to establish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you could use the seeds could appear on a directory card
yeah,
immediately following your story card and go ahead and put all of them down
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because they will be referencing other cards.
That's a great idea. Yeah, yeah, and that gives nice brevity,
Mhm.
and in a way, it works with the way I've already approached writing all of those scenes, which is
Mhm.
I have all of my private language cards it's essentially like a list of ingredients.
Mhm.
And some of those ingredients pose as pronouncements about what happens. But
Mhm.
really, it's all like, well, this could happen.
Mhm.
It might be BS if it happens.
Mhm.
And so, handing everybody a list of ingredients and saying, here's the soup,
Mhm.
hasn't worked that well. But the list of ingredients have taglines that can go into the directory card and help make sense as a coming to terms with the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you won't have the exactly how it was expressed between the two characters, but you will have the nugget that
Yeah,
you convey in that scene, and that's extremely valuable.
yeah. Deb, I felt, just changing subjects, your so-called ditty, your ode, your ode. I thought it really resonated a lot with this dialectic into dialogos idea, because when you try to come up with a definition for a virtue, you're never going to succeed. I mean, look at the definition of goodness in any dictionary, and you're not going to come away having got the sense of goodness that you have imbibed through people in your whole life, telling you to be good, correcting you when you're not being good, the changing shape of goodness as you are older and older and wiser and wiser, and that's just one. And so the compression of language is it makes things portable, but you have to know how to decompress it. And there are important ways, and I think Mel's newsletter is a highly important way on a personal level to decompress. As you are understanding something, you're decompressing. It's like, what might they have meant by this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to be able to, like Mel, keep referring back, because this stuff that you write about is so foundational. It's so trivium, quadrium versus changing classes at a bell's ring. And no matter how I think about it, I think I come to the conclusion that they threw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
In and then maybe not, because if that wasn't if the objective is not independent thinkers, independent standalone decision makers, if that's not the objective, then maybe they did exactly what they intended to do.
Yeah.
Which was to have a bunch of fodder for their mill, for their purposes. But fortunately, we have people who go back into time and bring it forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that we don't lose track, or we find a thread that we would have followed voluntarily had we known about it.
Yeah.
I
think many of our parents would have wanted us to follow it too. They would have been advocates for it.
Sure, they would have wished it was there for them.
Yeah.
It because these things are boosts for humanity. They this thinking allows you to walk with a straighter backbone. It allows you to make better decisions, allows you not to be so confused so often, so deeply, wondering what the hell is going on all the time. Right? And some people who, they melt under the pressure and they go, kill John Lennon or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah. So baby with the bathwater, but only in the ideal. So that's why I'm so pleased to be involved with the idea of building this idealistic place where, pardon me, nobody deals with zero sum. Zero sum is not even a concept that is alive in this place. It's how far can you expand your mind? And by sharing with others, what does that sharing look like inside you? What does that help you become? And why? Why?
And in what way is it fun?
Yeah, because there has to be some joy, not some joy. There has to be joy at the base of it.
Yeah.
Even though the brain likes hard, the brain likes joy too. So anyway, that's what I was trying to come up with in the ditty. But
Mm.
Yeah.
The idea of these things that we carry around with us that help us be ourselves. This is really important that we recognize that is actually what we're doing. And give ourselves praise for that, as well as praise for our ancestors who preserved things to pass down to us.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that you're saying, it resonates a lot with Mel being blue, that he hasn't had time to visit with his Zettelkasten as much as he would like. I know that I miss that too, and that the practice of using the Zettelkasten helps helps turn up some of those things that we have already absorbed, but we may have forgotten about,
Mhm.
or we are now ready to reappreciate in new ways.
Yeah.
Or a thing we've never named.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And I know I also experience being blue over not having time with my Zettelcast.
Yeah, my sympathies.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. Does anybody want to add further thoughts to the topics at hand?
I thank Victoria for presenting this one. I think it was
Yeah,
a terrific theme.
yeah.
Um, uh, and I thank you, Julianne, for leading it in her place.
Ah, sure. Well,
We do have one more thing to cover.
we do. Where could people go if they would like to learn more about any of this Zettelkasten, Roanoke, and many Mills newsletter, all sorts of things?
You could come to LiLLiPub.org. Thank you, Mel, for your wonderful card. And you will find us there. It's where we hang out when we're not in YouTube land. You'll find some wonderful discussions of the Roanoke Project and other things, Zettelkasten. You'll find Mel's Reading Club. You'll find Julianne's remarks in various places, and Deb's too, and some wonderful experiences that all of our members share with us, and fusion writing that Victoria leads. So come on over to LiLLiPub.org. You will it's the best $8 a month you could possibly spend.
It sure is. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.